The alarm wasn't built for war. It was a recycled mining siren, shrill and uneven, designed to warn of gas leaks or collapsing tunnels. But that morning it carried a different message: incoming hostile contact. Commander Elias Rourke stood in the control dome, staring at the trembling readouts on the battered hollow display. The colony's orbital sensors were primitive, little more than weather satellites retrofitted with surplus radar. Yet even their weak signal painted the shape of something massive sliding into orbit. The silhouette made his gut sink, sleek, angular, armored. Not a pirate skiff. Not a lost freighter. A warship. "Run it again," Rourke ordered, voice low. A young technician with oil-stained fingers tapped the console. The result came back unchanged. The ship was Velshan, Dominion markings, weapons bristling. A predator circling a crippled deer. The room went still. The colony of Kepler-62f, Earth's most neglected outpost, had no warships, no defenses, no trained militia. Just 2,000 settlers and a single orbital tug used for dragging ice from the outer belt. The rest was prefab domes, rusty mining rigs, and a reactor that coughed more than it hummed. "Commander?" the technician whispered. Rourke turned from the screen. His reflection in the glass looked older than 42, lines carved deep by years of dust storms and shortages. He had been an engineer once, not a soldier, but necessity made him leader. And now leadership meant staring down an executioner. "Put me through to the council," he said. Minutes later, a shaky hollow call filled the dome. 6 colonists crowded the frame: farmers, engineers, medics, ordinary people, eyes wide with fear. They spoke at once, a tangle of panic. "They'll level us in minutes. We can't fight. Maybe they'll take prisoners." "Enough!" Rourke's voice cut through. Silence followed. He forced his tone steady. "Surrender isn't an option. The Velshan don't take prisoners. They make examples." A woman with dust-streaked cheeks leaned forward. "Elias, what do we have? We're farmers. Miners. We can't." Rourke cut her off with a grim smile. "Exactly. That's what they don't understand." The transmission flickered out, leaving him in the hum of the control dome. Outside, through reinforced glass, the colony sprawled like a patchwork quilt across the red plain, rows of domes stitched together by cables and pipes. Families ran between shelters, clutching children, dragging crates of supplies. A place never meant to face war. He slammed his palm against the console. "Patch me through to every dome." The comms officer hesitated. "Commander, what do you want me to?" "Do it." A green light blinked. Rourke leaned close to the mic. "People of Kepler-62f. You've seen the sky. That's not a storm. That's a warship. And we are its target. I won't lie, we're outmatched. But we are not helpless. We built this colony out of nothing but dust and stubbornness. We can fight with the same. If you have drones, welders, cutters, explosives, get them ready. We don't roll over. Not today." He clicked off. The comms officer swallowed. "Sir, fight with what?" Rourke didn't answer. His mind was already moving, calculating. The tug's engines could be overloaded. Mining drones could be reprogrammed as guided charges. It was desperate, insane, but desperation was all they had. A klaxon wailed again, sharper this time. First plasma strike. The ground trembled. Through the glass, one of the outer domes burst open, spraying debris and flame into the thin atmosphere. Screams crackled over the comnet. Rourke barked orders. "Evacuate Dome 12! Get medics to the west sector. And someone drag the tug crew out of bed, we're taking her up." A voice answered, shaky but determined. "Already on it, Commander." The control dome became a storm of movement. Colonists rushed in with improvised weapons, cutters glowing hot, barrels of mining explosives, drones stripped of sensors and loaded with charges. None of it looked like war gear. All of it looked like survival. A boy no older than 17 staggered in, carrying a crate of detonators. His hands shook, but his jaw was set. "Where do you want these?" Rourke took one look at him. "With the drone team," And keep your head down, son! Another impact rocked the colony. Dust rained from the dome's ceiling. The alien ship was toying with them, firing warning shots before the kill. Rourke's comlink buzzed. A voice hissed through static, deep and mocking. Humans of Kepler! Surrender your colony. Lay down your tools. You are soft flesh in a metal shell, nothing more. Do not resist, and we may grant you mercy. The colonists froze. Rourke snatched the mic. This is Commander Elias Rourke of Kepler 62F. You want mercy? Come down here and ask for it. He cut the link before the Velshan could answer. The room erupted with nervous laughter, thin but real. Fear cracked, just a little. The comms officer stared at him. That'll bring the hammer down on us. Good, Rourke muttered. Better to take the hammer on our terms. Another blast lit the horizon. Dome 4 disintegrated in a burst of fire. Families scrambled, dragging injured through smoke. The colony was breaking, minute by minute. Rourke strode to the tactical board, an old mining display repurposed into a crude battle map. He jabbed at it. Here's what we do. Drones launch first, loaded with charges. Make them swarm the hull. Don't stop to aim, just cling and detonate. The tug slingshots around the planet's magnetosphere, picks up velocity. We use the mass driver to fire rock at them, big, fast, ugly. Shields won't like that. Meanwhile, ground teams rig the grid for overload. If the ship gets close, we fry its systems with an EMP surge. High risk. High payoff. The technician gaped. That could kill us too. Rourke locked eyes with him. Better that than waiting to be burned alive. No one argued. The plan spread through the colony like wildfire. Colonists moved with frantic purpose, welding explosives onto drones, loading rocks into the tug's mass driver, stringing cables for the reactor overload. Every hand had a task. Fear turned into focus. Rourke stood at the center of it all, barking orders, steadying nerves, refusing to let the weight show. Inside, though, his chest burned with doubt. He wasn't a general. He was an engineer holding a broken machine together with tape. But if that machine was humanity, he would hold it until his last breath. Outside, the alien ship loomed closer, black against the stars. The timer in his head began to tick. 7 minutes until the galaxy learned what Earth's weakest colony could do. The alien ship dropped into low orbit like a predator circling its meal. Its hull gleamed with a sickly blue sheen, each panel humming with shield energy. Weapon ports glowed faintly, promising destruction. Commander Rourke stood in the tug's cramped cockpit, helmet clipped under his arm. He had 5 crew with him, all volunteers who should have been technicians, miners, or drone pilots. None had fired a weapon in their lives. Yet each face burned with a strange calm, fear and resolve fused together. Minute 1, the comms officer whispered. The alien warlord's voice bled through every channel, dripping contempt. Kepler colony, this is your final chance. Submit, and perhaps I will spare your offspring. Rourke cut the transmission with a flick of his wrist. Launch the drones. On the surface, dozens of reprogrammed mining drones ignited their thrusters. They were crude machines, spindly arms, patched engines, empty sensor sockets. Each carried a belly full of mining charges wired for impact detonation. They swarmed upward like a cloud of angry insects, engines sputtering in uneven bursts. The alien gunners barely noticed. Plasma turrets tracked lazily, firing at the closest targets. Several drones vanished in bright explosions. But the rest darted erratically, weaving patterns no war computer could predict. Get them to the hull, Rourke ordered. The swarm struck. Clamps meant for asteroid drilling latched onto sleek alien plating. One by one, detonations rippled across the shields. Sparks flared, blue fields rippled violently. Shields at 70%! Someone shouted over the calm cheers followed, brief and sharp. Minute 2. The alien ship retaliated. A barrage of plasma lanced toward the colony surface, striking Dome 6. The blast turned the prefab structure into molten shards. Screams echoed through comms before static replaced them. Rourke's jaw tightened. Losses unavoidable. He forced himself to stay focused. Load the mass driver. The tug swung wide, skimming the planet's magnetosphere. The maneuver rattled the hull, made every bolt groan. Rourke gripped the chair's arms, teeth clenched as the small ship fought turbulence. The crew fed raw rock into the mass driver, a mining tool never meant for war. Ready to fire, the gunner said. Send it. The tug shuddered. A boulder the size of a cargo pod streaked through orbit, accelerated by the driver's coils. It struck the Velshan ship with a soundless flash. Shields flared, then buckled. Fragments tore through the alien armor, punching holes not designed for blunt force impacts. Minute 3. Inside the alien ship, alarms blared. The warlord's furious voice slipped into open channels. Unacceptable. Increase firepower. Burn them to ash. Colonists on the surface scrambled to respond. Teams rerouted power lines, dragging cables across open ground while plasma fire lit the sky. Sparks flew, boots pounded dirt. The reactor core screamed as operators pushed it beyond safety limits. On the tug, Rourke wiped sweat from his brow. Second shot, double load. Give them something they'll remember. 2 boulders this time. The tug nearly tore itself apart with the strain, but both projectiles soared true. One smashed a weapons array clean off. The other cracked a fuel vent, sending plumes of fire licking across the alien hull. The comms filled with shouts of disbelief. Farmers, welders, mechanics, every voice rang with adrenaline. We're hurting them. They're bleeding. Minute 4. The alien ship lurched, still powerful but no longer untouchable. Shields sputtered, weapon fire grew erratic. Rourke seized the moment. Surface team, how's the overload grid? Almost there, came the reply, broken by static. We've tied half the colony into the line. Another minute, maybe less. Make it less. Minute 5. The Velshan retaliated with rage. Plasma strikes hammered the colony. The ground shook, domes collapsed one after another. Fires spread through oxygen lines. Still, the colonists worked, dragging cables through smoke, welding connections with bare hands. On the tug, warning lights flared red. Commander, we can't take another pass like that. Hull integrity is dropping. Rourke's voice hardened. One more. Just one. They dove low, skimming the planet's magnetic field again. Every panel rattled, every gauge screamed. The tug was seconds from tearing apart. Fire! Rourke barked. The last shot ripped free. The projectile punched directly into the Velshan's bridge section. Hull plating buckled inward. Fire bloomed. For the first time, the warship staggered visibly. Minute 6. The overload grid came online. On the surface, settlers abandoned tools and ran for cover as power built in the reactor core. Lights flickered, arcs of electricity danced across the ground. Commander, we're ready, came the surface call. Rourke drew a breath. This was it. On my mark, now! The colony's power grid roared. Every watt surged into the cables, funneled into a directed pulse. A white flash erupted, washing across the orbiting ship. Alien shields collapsed instantly. Circuits fried. Weapons went dead. The Velshan vessel hung motionless, crippled. Minute 7. The mining drones still clinging to its surface received their final commands. Charges detonated along the weakened hull. Explosions tore through the ship, splitting it open. Fires spread uncontrolled. The warlord's last broadcast broke through the comms, a roar of disbelief. Impossible! You are nothing but... The transmission ended in static as the warship erupted. Pieces of the mighty vessel scattered across orbit, glowing trails painting the night sky. Silence fell over every channel. The colonists had no words. For 7 long minutes they had lived on the edge of annihilation, and somehow, impossibly, they had destroyed a warship. Rourke sagged into his chair, lungs burning. He looked at his crew, soot-smeared and exhausted, and managed a crooked grin. Well, that worked. Laughter broke out, shaky but real. Relief surged through comms as colonists cried, shouted, and cheered. Against every calculation, Earth's weakest colony had done the unthinkable. Yet as Rourke gazed through the cockpit window at the burning wreckage drifting above, his expression sobered. Victory had a cost, whole domes reduced to ash, lives lost in every blast. And beyond that, he knew the truth. The Velshan would not forget this humiliation. For now, though, the colony breathed. For now, they had 7 minutes that would echo across the stars. The battlefield was silent. No alarms, no plasma fire, no alien voice mocking them from orbit. Only the low crackle of flames eating through broken domes and the hiss of oxygen leaking into the thin Kepler air. Commander Elias Rourke walked through the ruins with his helmet tucked under one arm. Dust clung to his boots, coating every step in the gray remnants of shattered homes. Around him, colonists worked in grim silence, pulling bodies from rubble, dousing fires with recycled water, checking who had survived the 7-minute storm. The smell of burnt metal and scorched plastic filled the air. It was the smell of survival, but it was also the smell of loss. A young medic jogged up, breathless. "Commander, casualty reports are coming in." She hesitated, her voice faltering. 212 confirmed dead. Dozens more missing. Rourke closed his eyes for a moment. Nearly 1 in 10. He forced himself to nod. "Log every name. Every one of them gets remembered." The medic swallowed hard and moved on. Rourke stopped beside what used to be Dome 6. Only a twisted skeleton of girders remained, the rest scattered across the plain. Families huddled near makeshift shelters, faces hollow but alive. Children clung to parents, eyes wide with the kind of fear no child should know. Behind him, the tug's crew approached, their uniforms scorched and their expressions torn between pride and guilt. The gunner, a broad-shouldered miner named Kale, broke the silence first. We actually did it. We took down a warship." No one cheered. The weight of the dead hung too heavy. Rourke answered quietly. "Yes. And the Velshan will never forgive it." That truth spread like fire through whispers in the crowd. The colony had not just survived, it had drawn blood. In the galaxy's ruthless order, that meant one thing: retaliation. Inside the council dome, a structure half collapsed and patched with sheets of welded scrap, leaders and volunteers gathered around a scorched table. Lanterns flickered, casting harsh shadows on weary faces. One of the farmers slammed his fist on the table. "We can't stay here. They'll send more ships. A fleet. This place is finished." A mechanic shook her head. "And go where? The nearest relay station is 4 months away. Earth won't send help, they barely remember we exist." A chorus of arguments erupted. Fear sharpened every word. Rourke raised his voice. "Listen." The room quieted, though tension buzzed in the air. He leaned forward, eyes steady. "We had no fleet, no soldiers, no guns. And still we won. Not because we're strong, but because we refuse to be prey. If the Velshan come again, we'll make them bleed again. That's our only path." The farmer spat on the ground. "You'll get us all killed." "Maybe," Rourke admitted. "But surrender guarantees the same. At least this way, we choose how we go down." The room fell into silence. No one wanted to agree, but no one had a better answer. That night, the colony held its first vigil. Lanterns lined the main causeway, one for every dead. The survivors stood shoulder to shoulder, faces illuminated by trembling light. No speeches, no songs, just silence, broken only by the wind across the red plain. Rourke stood apart at the edge of the crowd, hands clasped behind his back. Guilt pressed down heavy. He had ordered the drones launched, the grid overloaded, the tug driven to near collapse. Every choice had saved the colony. Every choice had also cost lives. A soft voice spoke at his side. "You did what no one else could." He turned to see Mara, the head of the medics, her uniform streaked with soot and blood. She met his gaze firmly. "They'd all be gone without you." Rourke shook his head. 212 still are. 2,000 aren't," she replied. "That's the math that matters." For the first time since the battle, he let himself exhale. The next morning, the colony awoke to a new kind of sky. Fragments of the Velshan ship still burned above, streaking across orbit like falling stars. Children pointed at them, half in fear, half in awe. In the control dome, technicians sifted through intercepted transmissions. A nervous operator approached Rourke with a data slate. "Sir, you need to hear this." The recording crackled to life. Alien voices, sharp and angry, speaking in a guttural tongue. The translation AI struggled, but the message was clear enough: Velshan warship destroyed, humans responsible, dishonor must be avenged. Rourke felt the chill run through the room. "They're broadcasting it openly?" The operator nodded. "Every channel. They want everyone to know." Which meant every other faction in the galaxy now knew as well. Rourke pictured it: alien councils replaying the footage, rival empires whispering in their war rooms. Humans, those backward colonists, brought down a Dominion warship. He almost laughed. Earth's weakest colony had just become its loudest trumpet. Later that day, he called the settlers together in the main square. The ground was scarred by fire, buildings half collapsed, but still they gathered: miners, farmers, children, medics, engineers. Faces raw with exhaustion, but alive. Rourke climbed onto a crate and raised his voice. "We were supposed to die this week. Every report said so. Every calculation agreed. And yet here we stand. Why? Because we refuse to be defined by weakness. We are colonists, yes. Builders, growers, tinkerers. But when it mattered, we became defenders. We became the line the galaxy didn't expect." The crowd murmured, anger and pride mixing. "Don't mistake this victory for safety," he continued. "The Velshan will return. But when they do, they won't find victims. They'll find the same stubborn hands that built this colony out of dust. And those hands will tear them down again, no matter how many ships they send." For the first time, cheers rose from the crowd. Thin, ragged, but real. Rourke let them have that moment. They needed it as much as air. That evening, as stars sharpened against the dark sky, a message pinged through the long-range comm array. It was faint, distorted by distance, but unmistakably from Earth. The words chilled Rourke. "Reinforcements unavailable. You are on your own. Hold if you can." He read it twice, then passed the slate to his crew. No one looked surprised. Earth had always treated Kepler 62F as expendable. But now, the galaxy no longer could. Rourke stepped outside the dome. He watched the fragments of the Velshan ship still glowing in orbit, silent witnesses to the impossible. The colony behind him was broken, battered, grieving. But alive. He whispered to himself, a vow more than a thought. 7 minutes? That's all it took for them to learn we're not prey. Above him, the wreckage burned on, carrying that truth across the stars.